Well, there you are. Again, Charlie Greer podcast. I do this every day. Today, have you ever seen a ghost? Comment below. Let's do this. So, first, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, which you do, you know you do. The info is in the description for Zelle. Zelle's an app, and you just you'll figure it out. Let's do this. So, have you ever seen a ghost? Question mark. Perhaps you're probably thinking, perhaps, maybe. Um, I've done, I did one a while back, and I said it was about perception. Huxley talks about the doors of perception. I think he's right on the money about that. I think this stuff is kind of around us all the time, but we have to, again, if your perception is off, then, like meaning like in your own, people get like caught up in life. I get it. We all can get caught up in life, and you're thinking about, you get these like negative thought patterns, regrets. You mix all that up, it's like a weird stew in your mind. You might not see anything. You might not even, opportunities will come at you. You won't even see. But yeah, I think this activity goes on. Um, and I have things happen, not all the time, but they do, and I pick up on them. Like one of the things in my neighborhood, sometimes my dog will get me up like late at night sometimes to do the potty, and it sucks. It's like, man, I don't want to go, but and I know she has to go. She's getting older, so go out there middle of the night, 3, 4 in the morning, and I'll hear this who I hear this howl like a owl. I've heard other people saying like, man, you hear an owl, you better run if you're in the woods. And then it'll move like, what the fuck? And it almost sounds like somebody trying to sound like an owl. I thought my streetwise wisdom that someone's like creeping around, probably breaking into cars, and they're communicating with each other. So they'll do something stupid like a ooh ooh, here comes somebody ooh ooh like an owl. I've heard that and seen that in Los Angeles. I lived in LA for 24 years, and that's what you do. So this owl, and then my dog died in October. Mr. Simon, he died and I think it was October 10th, and I had he was 18. And it was brutal. I'm still kind of shaken up about it. But twice since he's passed, one time it was in the house. I was sitting in my chair here, and like this breeze comes by. Now, see, he had a smell. I don't know if you certain dogs, like he was a Dandy Dinmont Terrier or something like that. And I'd wash him. I'd even get him groomed, all that. And they could mask it a bit, put him on the, all this good smelling stuff on him, and then you went in, and at first you'll smell like that, the smell, but it masked it. He always had this scent about him. It was like sour, and you get used to it, but it's kind of funky. So his scent, which I've never smelled I've never smelled anything. I've had a ton of dogs, and they all smell kind of different. Sometimes the same a little bit, but man, Simon had some kind of funk. I felt this breeze, and then I could smell him. Like it was strong. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, it smells like Simon. It smells like Mr. Simon. Didn't see anything. And then the next time it happened, I was in my car, windows rolled up, about to start my car, and I felt it from like my right side, from the passenger side, felt this breeze, and it was strong. It was just like, damn, like he was all in my face, his little funky face. So I didn't see him as I didn't see his ghost, but I smelled his little funky ass. It is weird. Like my car doesn't smell like Simon. I don't care what I didn't have one of his blankets in there and nothing. So there's this strange things you can like, maybe people wouldn't pick up on. I don't know. But it's weird. Strange, mysterious world we live in. So ghost. So the last thing that I saw that I thought was trippy, in my bathroom, I have like a pane window. It's like this and this, and that's all I can see. So it's almost like a painting. So I'm standing there using the restroom. I see this paint. You know what I mean? It's always the same. You can see where the branches are and this and that, where the squirrels are, and then the fire pit, and then the backyard and the sheds, and then over there the old, liquor store that's abandoned now or whatever. Then I can see part of the park. So it never changes. So if something else, if something's going on, you notice it. Like if someone's driving through the field or parked there, you immediately. So I got up one night. It was like, again, probably 3 or 4 in the morning. Use the restroom. I'm standing there and I see this dude like standing by the pole. He was in a black suit, tall, really tall, and not moving. And it's like raining like sideways. I just thought, maybe I'm not, I'm seeing things. Um, and I'm half asleep, so I just like, well, whatever. Hey, so I go back to bed. And then when I wake up in the morning, when the sun's up, whatever, and I look through the window, it's not there. That's when it kind of creeped me out. Like, who was fucking standing there? Like, what did I just see? Like this tall dude in a black suit. Um, I don't know. Maybe I was sleepwalking. Who knows? Not necessarily a ghost. And honestly, there are weirdos in this small town. There's weirdos everywhere. It could have just been some tweaker that's standing out there, stole the suit or something. So that could be perhaps. But there's, there wouldn't be a paranormal. There's all kind. People have been talking about this for like ever. In the Middle East, they call them jinns. I worked for a guy who claimed that, and I saw some crazy shit in that old building in Hollywood. In some places in Hollywood, they openly talk about it. Openly. Back in the day, I applied at the Pantages, which is like this awesome historic theater right on Hollywood Boulevard. The Pantages, and when in the interview, when I first came in the interview, somebody was like, okay, look, I'm just gonna be honest with you. The guy, it's haunted. So the guy, the job you'll get, he quit because he got tired of dealing with this ghost. And I'm like, oh, come on, man, a ghost. He's like, I'm serious. You will, and I'll just give you the job. We just need, and I was like, no, I don't think so. So we went down to the basement to like do the interview, and he goes, I'll walk you up. I was like, you don't have to. No, I better. And then we went to the elevator, and as the door was closing, we heard this like whoosh, like a weird kind of swirl. And he looked at me, he's like, yep, there you go, that's it. And I was like, there's no way I'd work here. He's like, it'll you get used to it. First it's kind of trippy, but they don't hurt anybody. And he was naming all these crazy, stage hands that had fallen and died or something. They just on. He's friend. They had a name for one of them. Like, damn, no, I don't want the job. Because when he does turn, I don't want him turning in shed. There's just places that are known to be Skinwalker Ranch. That place has always been. Bob Bigelow, Robert Bigelow, whatever his name was, he studied it. He got like a grant or something for the government, and they studied that area. Most of it's sealed. They don't want to. And oh yeah. And the ranchers before him, the 3 or 4 or whatever, because they bought it like I don't know, people ranch in that area since the 1800s or something. All had dealt with weirdo shit, and the people today that live there are still dealing with this stuff. And before, like the first rancher back in like the 1800s, I'm gonna ranch this place. See, the Native Americans were like, whoa, no, dude, you don't want to. This is not a. Well, it was cheap and it looked perfect for. They're like, bro, this is our hunting. Like, they have like a hunting area, and that was part of their. They're like, we skip the Native Americans. They're like, we won't even go around here. We go around this area because there's some crazy stuff. Skinwalker, like people that turn into animals and lights and ghosts and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm sure the rancher's like, oh, not me. I'll get. And he went tuck tailing and run. They all have. There's just certain places, certain areas that are like paranormal is going on. I'm fascinated by the paranormal. Again, I don't want to be I'm not a deep diver or anything, but and I do eventually want to contact some like paranormal societies, ghosts, even like Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever they're in, and just interview them. I don't want to go out in the field. I just want to get their take on things for the podcast. And they're all over. You can't pick a state, a town, whatever. People are ghost hunting and this and that and other thing. My grandmother used to take us to, and this is kind of morbid, but we loved it. We were kids. She would take us through graveyards. Man, we hit so many graveyards. Even if when we lived in Florida, they'd come down to visit for like the holidays, whatever. We'd go out with grandma and she would find these graveyards and walk us through. And this, I mean, at the time, I didn't really think it was that morbid, you know. And she'd laugh and we'd be, oh, yeah, look at the graves. And never did see anything. And she was looking for like old graves. And she'd say prayers and stuff. And I've told this, there's an episode where me and my sister went looking for the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch is from Tennessee. And me and her and a group of other kids in the neighborhood went hunting the Bell Witch down by the creek. Walked the creek to town and back. And at the end, we actually saw something. But I think it was because everybody knew we were out there. You know what I mean? So somebody put on like a black dress or whatever and stood out there. Because as soon as we got back, literally we were in it going home, we saw. Like we couldn't see, details. But there's like this lady in this like weird, raggedy old black dress. Because the sun was behind her. So she was kind of like, the Bell Witch. We went running. So it was probably somebody, back they get on the phone. Well, let's scare Charles David and them. Which they probably did. But no, you never know. Could have been Bell Witch. Hopefully not. And you could look up the Bell Witch. She haunted the Bell family, John Bell. I think she killed John Bell. Andrew Jackson, who's he witnessed, a lot of people witness this stuff. It's in our history about like, there's just certain things you just don't want to. When I lived in St. Louis, we had my grandfather had a store. And then after he passed, I managed, it was an antique store. I managed the store for 4 years. And down off Merrimack, you hit Broad and went left. Alexian Brothers, I think it was called. It was an old hospital. That's where the real exorcist happened. And it wasn't a girl, it was a dude, a boy, or a teenager, or whatever. And they abandoned that hospital. I mean, even when in the 90s, when it was not marble, that whole, it was blocks of this nice, just boarded up. And it was creepy. Just driving by that area. It always seemed like, even on a sunny day, it seemed like it was overcast in that area. It's just, St. Louis is trippy. And the town I'm living in now, I've talked about this. We lived in an old house when I was a teenager, when I lived in this town before. And you could hear people walking around all the time. Different footsteps too. Some sound like they had cowboy boots on, were heavier. Some sounded like, they were creaking, and we just kind of got used to it. And then people would come over and it'd be happening. And we're like, oh no, that's just, and people would, I want to go see for myself. They never see anything. We never saw anything in the house. Now, outside the house, I've told this, but I saw this like Civil War soldiers leaning up against a tree. The tree wasn't there across the street. I mean, I saw it all dissipate in front of me. Weird thing about it was he reacted to me. He saw me too. And another guy, or ghost, I should say, came up and then they just disappeared. He was lifting up this muzzle barrel gun when he disappeared. And the tree too. Like, what the hell? And of course, I had been drinking. I was probably like 13 or 14. But I wasn't heavy drinking. We stole some beer from my mom. I hate to admit this, but we were beer thieves as kids. And my sister was a little older. She had like her driver's license. So and this is the thing, other people came, our friends, so they would steal some from their parents. By the time we had like a little mess of different beers and wines, and I drank maybe 2 beers. Because, back when you're a kid, you can't even handle beer. It's like, And so I was drinking, so maybe that had something to do with it. But comment below. What have you guys seen? I'm sure you guys have got, there's some good comments coming. You've had to have dealt with the unseen, the paranormal. And the apartment I'm in now, the neighbor, see, Scotty Beers used to live in this apartment, and before me, and then I got this apartment, and then the neighbor that he had, this old man who'd been here forever, like he had moved out, and then the old man, like people knew this old man, but then nobody had seen him for a couple of days, and then of course he passed in like my next door, the other apartment next door. But I've never seen anything, you know. This house is so old. It's like a Civil War era house. It was built like in like 1860. You know, just uh, there's no telling how many people passed in this house. There's probably babies birthed here. Pardon me. They used to use houses for funerals. My grandmother's house in Smithville, Tennessee. This little house. That's what they did. Like my great grandfather, when he passed, they had the funeral there. He was all set up in the coffin, like in the living room. They moved stuff around, you know. They and then it kind of caught on. They were like, "Well, can we have our?" You know, so they had like multiple funerals back in the day in this place. I never did see anything though, but it's creepy to think like your living room was a mortuary. They had funerals, you know. And the strange thing about like a Southern funeral, and I don't know if there's a mess of food. Well, we got every kind of pecan pie and potato salad and fried okra, cornbread. You know, it's endless. You need multiple tables, and it's just everywhere near the sink. There's all this food. I don't know if people is that a thing anywhere? Anyway. So again, comment below. What have you seen? The unexplained, perhaps? Maybe. Maybe. And I know that people go out looking like they're, you know, they're in a society, like a ghost society or whatever. And they always have some kind of weird name. And then they make it into an initial, you know, like the Central Illinois Ghost Society or something like that. You know? I want to interview these people. Not to make fun of them, or anything, but I want to, you know, because I've watched some of those shows or YouTube videos, and these people are out hunting like the paranormal, and then they've never seen anything. Or I've watched video on like Bigfoot, and people are like dedicated Bigfoot investigators and never seen one. That's kind of strange. You would think that you would see one and then kind of get obsessed, be like, I need to see it again, but maybe not. I know from growing up in Tennessee where there's a deep woods. There's like places that, you know, you could run into a Neanderthal and it wouldn't, because people aren't out there. I'm talking about deep in the woods over a couple hollers, and we would see things, weird stuff, hear all kinds of crazy stuff, buzzing and disoriented. Yeah. Of course, watch out for the snakes. But I think it's all over. Again, I think Huxley was right about the doors of perception. It's your perception. Because there's times where I've been in a group of people and we'll see some kind of weird light or something like that. And some people didn't see it. Even though they're standing right there, they should. No, I didn't see it. Is it perception? Perception? Perception. It could be. Very well could be. Again, living in Hollywood, there was this strange, I lived in this one apartment building across from Paramount on Van Ness, and it was just known for just, there have been so many weird things going on there. And my roommate and I, we were having like poltergeist activity, like getting choked in our sleep and stuff. It was trippy. And one night I woke up, and the walls in my room, and I could see into the living room, were glowing red. Like it was weird. And I sat up, and it literally, just it went like it just went right back to normal. And he freaked out. He was screaming. Other people too, because you could through the window, there was like you could see the people across the way because there was like a walkway through the apartment, so you could see your neighbors across it lit up. It just went from our screaming. It all happened at the same time, and we're like through the window. Did you see? Yeah. Did you see that? That was lights. And it's like, yeah, man. The whole thing was glowing, the walls. And then we talked to the owner, and he was this old stunt man. He'd been like on Bonanza and Gunsmoke and this and that and the other, and he'd saved his money from doing that for decades and bought this building. He was cool too. People say this, he wouldn't have everything. But then the manager of the building, who lived near the office, because the office was up front, around the corner, he and his family lived there. I was walking away, and he goes, "Come here, man." He's like, "Wait till George leaves, and we'll talk." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Matter of fact, I'll come to you. I'll come to your door." All right, because I got friendly with them. And he did. About an hour or two later, he knocked on my door. He's like, "Come in." And I went to his apartment. He's like, "Man, have you heard the bell?" I'm like, "What do you mean the bell?" He's like, "The ringing of the little bell." I'm like, "No." "Have you seen the children?" I'm like, "Children?" Like, "Yeah, the two kids." I'm like, "No." He goes, "If you hear that bell and see those kids, you better run." I was like, "What? The bell, the children? Now, what are you telling? I don't want to." He swore he had, and his mother lived with him. She was old. She's like, "Oh my God, I don't like those kids." What do they look like? She's like, one was a kid, a boy, one was a girl, and they look kind of weird. And they usually would like wake you up and be like right beside the bed, just kind of, I'm like, good thing I didn't see any of these ghostly kids. But there was weird stuff. It was built by Paramount, and across the street there was an entrance that they had walled up or put like a metal gate and put like so. But underneath there used to be like a tunnel underneath from Paramount to this building, and it was used like every star you could imagine back in the day had went there. There was illegal gambling, there was all kinds of stuff, and their thought was, hey, at Paramount, they're like, look, these stars are creepy weirdos doing crazy shit. We need to keep them close. We need to keep them, because I talked to the people at Paramount and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, that's true. And George, he told me how they walled it. He showed me where they'd walled it up for the, and he was like, yeah, they would, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, all of them were back in the day would go, want to go get their freak on or whatever. They just walk underneath, go to one of these apartment. They could call up and get, whatever they wanted to do. And that would make sense to me because you can control it. You can, because if they get like out of hand, you're like, okay, at least they're right across the, we can, monitor it. We don't want them making a scandal and like ruining our business. And the strange things, and other people in the building when I lived there, they would deal with stuff too. My neighbors, this, that, and the other, and I'm pretty sure that one of these societies came around. I know that they called some kind of people, they were burning like sage around the building. I'd seen that. But I know they were contacting multiple like paranormal societies in Hollywood, because there's like production companies. That's all they do is like ghost videos and UFOs and this, that, and the other. And they have their people that are specialists in this and that. And I lived in this building twice. The first time I lived on the third floor, I had like the biggest apartment. And then the second time I lived there, I lived on the first floor and I had like one of the smallest apartments. Over the years, George he was cool. Like the owner, I was like, when I left the first time, he was like, you'll be back. I go, no, I won't. Because I didn't want to deal. And when you live in Hollywood and you're in an apartment, all these things, people would like pull the fire escape for no reason. And 3 a.m, you're out on the street for an hour or two, and hearing people screaming and then fights and crazy, and people like pissing in the hallway. Just there's too many variables. So it's like, I want to live on my own. I want to have like a standalone little. And that's why I moved the first time. And he was like, you'll be back. I was like, no, no, man. I mean, I'll come and visit you, but no, no, I was like a year or two later. It's like, I need a place. I was like, I'll go talk to George. Of course, he welcomed me with open arms. Charlie, you're one of my favorites, he said. Because me and George got friendly. He was cool. I'd bring him lunch or whatever. I'd get food. I'd do this, that, the other. And I'd help him too. But sometimes he's like, hey, man, some guys didn't show up. I'm not asking you to work. Just we need to get like these paint jugs up on the third. Can you help me? There's no elevator and there was stairs. But yeah, I'll take some off your rent or whatever. No, 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 no. I miss George. I miss old Hollywood because they redid that building. And it looks like I don't even know. They put all these like kind of things on it, and matter of fact, I think it's a motel now. I don't even think you can like. Maybe you can, but the last time I looked into it, it was a tourist motel or tourist stay. It's literally right across the street from Paramount on Van Ness, and Paramount is because there's Paramount, and then at the end of Paramount, there's that wall, and that's where Hollywood Forever starts, which is long. It's like blocks long. You have to go around down Santa Monica to get in, unless you're going to jump the fence, which you don't want to, get into Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And as morbid as it sounds, and like I was telling you, my grandmother used to walk me through the graveyard. If that was the closest park, it was kind of like a park. It was like really tranquil and all these trees. So you couldn't really hear Hollywood. And there was always hipsters there. They're always doing something, filming something. And I used to grab a falafel, like these cheap falafels for like $1.50, and I would eat my lunch and walk around the graveyard. The part that they would let you. There's like certain parts where you're not supposed to go. And just hang out. All the time I did that. I would meet people there. Meet in the graveyard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where we're meeting. And then they started doing the movies in the graveyard. And I'd do that. It was awesome. I saw Easy Rider because they have a big building and they would just project it on the side of the building. And you could lay out a blanket and back then you could bring in wine, booze, food. It was rocking. And then it got too hip and too many people were showing up, got expensive. I don't know if they let you bring in booze because it got wild. Matter of fact, they came in a couple times and like, hey, like, you got to bring it down a notch. Okay. I'm sorry. And the night that I saw Easy Rider, Karen Black, she's an actress. She was in the original Easy Rider. She hosted it. And she was like, all right. And she like pulled out a joint. She's like, fire up your joints. And of course it was legal. And 1,000 joints are lit. You should have smelt it. I got sick one night. This girl I was dating was like, let's take sushi. I was like, man, it's hot. We're going to have to wait in line. And of course we did by the time we got in this sushi. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to. And she stuffed one in my like yellow-tailed something or other in my mouth. And I swallowed it. And then she was like, oh, I don't like this. And I was like, man, just throw that sushi away. We had a ton of food. Of course, that sushi, by the time we left 4 or 5 hours later, I'm throwing up in front of everybody. We're like walking down the graveyard. I'm like projectile vomiting. Good times. But yeah, have you ever seen a ghost? Question mark. Comment below. Let me know what you think. It's a good way to get it off your chest. Because I know certain people they won't tell. They don't want people to know that they might think I'm weird. Which of course you are, but yeah, is there an area around your area that's like known for like, the supernatural? Perhaps there is. So again, comment, let me know. And if you happen to come across this and you're in some kind of like paranormal society, comment. Again, I'm going to start doing more about I'm always going to keep this format, but I want to do like something every once in a while, like that's kind of different, out and about. And I want to interview people. I want to do like the Huell Hauser kind of thing. So you tell your story. Of course, I'm going to be commenting and so yeah, let me know. Again, please like, share, and subscribe if you want to support the channel, which you do. Everybody does. The info is in the description for Zelle, and Zelle is an app. You'll figure it out. The hats are coming soon, t-shirts, all that kind of stuff. And I do this every day. Not necessarily about paranormal, but I'm all over the place. But you never know. You never know. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, I love y'all. Be blessed. Cheers.